Well, for me, and first, before I go on, I want to thank you because I started my podcast a few months ago, and you were the first to reach out and let me know that you've been doing the podcasting. If there's any help, and you helped me kind of get going with actually even figuring out how to put a freaking podcast out there. So thank you for that. Um, but for me, like I said, I started this Beyond the Melody music mentoring. So it started with the mentoring program, and I was trying to figure out ways on how I could market myself and how I could create content, but something that felt natural to me because I'm not really that guy that's, going to do all these videos and editing and stuff. It really doesn't interest me, but I thought podcasting's cool because I've always been a really curious person. Like if you were to ask my siblings, I was like the why kid. So when I was a kid, it'd be like, well, hey, why is the sky blue? Oh, because it's blah, blah. Well, why? And they'll give me an answer. Well, why this and why that? And it probably annoyed the shit out of my brothers and sisters after a while. But I was that curious kid, so I've always been curious about people and their stories. But like I said, originally the motivation was just to find and create new content for my mentoring program and talk to creatives. I just wanted to talk to creatives from all walks of life that have been able to create a dream for themselves or realize some amazing things in their life and share their story. And it has been such a phenomenal experience for me because I don't know about you, but just connecting with people again, like I just love it. I just love like meeting new people, learning about their story, getting it out there, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's sort of kind of evolved into its own thing. But yeah, so I've been able to talk to a lot of really cool people, a lot of musicians, some business people, some comics, So it's not something that I think I'm going to stop doing. I just love it. So yeah, that's basically what it was. It was just kind of finding a way to create new content and diving into it. And it's been a blast.
Yeah, I find the podcasting's been a blessing during the pandemic. I'm
Yeah,
super social. I'm normally running a bunch of big events, and
yeah, that's true.
being quarantined for almost 2 years has not been easy on the mental health. And a lot of people, even though everyone's been isolating, a lot of people, it's like, her and her husband, or with the kids, or with what, so they're quarantined but they're still not alone. And then there's some people, like I've been living alone, so it's been
Yeah.
pretty tough. So I find that the interviews, doing them once a week or once every 2 weeks, that it really helps to feel connected to a human being, because you kind of lose that.
Yeah. Was that your motivation to start the pod?
I did start it uh, during, in the first few months of the pandemic. I'm a huge fan of podcasts, like you mentioned, Joe Rogan and
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson and Tim Ferriss, and there's so many good podcasts, and they're mostly the inspirational stuff.
Yeah.
I've just always been a big fan. And then I had a business partner, Alicia Grant, that started a podcast, and it sounded great, and she was doing well with it and doing a good job. And I just thought, okay, well, I'll talk to her. And she's like, it's so simple. Like, you can do it for free and use this site. So I reached out to you basically because I had recently reached out to her, and she gave me all the goods as the person that had started before me. So when I saw you were thinking of starting one, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just pay that forward for what she did to me. But yeah, it's been awesome. So I checked out your podcast, and your voice sounds amazing. Like, we had technical difficulties, so we had to cut out your mic.
Yeah.
So your voice still sounds great, but when you have that good mic up
I was
close,
ready to go. I was ready to go.
yes, you were ready. It was not on you. It's the technology gods have spoken today,
Yeah.
and not in our favor. But yeah, your voice with the mic up close sounds amazing. Your interviewing skills are awesome. So I wanted to ask you, did you know before starting the podcast that you would do a good job being the one that's doing the interviewing? And now that now that you do know that you do a good job, do you think it's because of you being on the other end and having done so many interviews that you kind of get the feel for what the interview is like and how it should flow? Because you've probably had some people that were terrible doing interviews, and you've probably had some people that were great doing interviews with you, and maybe by osmosis you kind of learned that skill.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it was. I really don't know. I don't know. I know people around me were saying that I was good. conversation and talking to people and stuff, but I never really knew, because when you're talking to people, you don't really record yourself. So like, I never really knew how I sounded when it came to that. Obviously, like you said, you do the interviews, but um, for me, like I said, I think it's just being interested in people, like being genuinely curious and interested in people, and listening and really paying attention, but again, for me, it was a learning curve. I was nervous, man. I was definitely nervous when I started, and wanting to do a good job, and wanting my guests to walk away feeling like, and I'm sure you're the same way, wanting them to walk away and feel like, oh wow, man, he did his research and he was attentive and he asked cool questions and it was a good conversation. I did a lot of interviews that I hated, because there was no effort. It was so predictable. So I knew I didn't want to be that. The thing that I love about podcasts are the conversations, and when there's a rhythm in the conversation, the listener can feel like they're part of the conversation. So I just wanted to sit back and be as genuine and as real as possible with these people. And to me, I'm always, like, again, like I said, like a bit of a perfectionist. Like, I listen to my podcast, and I always, my whole mentality is, how can I get 2% better after every episode? Okay, I'm doing too many ums, or I could have worded that question a bit better, or I could have a little less banter in between, or those little things
Or I'm
that,
talking too fast,
or
or
I'm talking to, yeah,
I have little, you touch your face, or yeah.
it's something, right? Yeah. So for me, it was, it's always trying to find a way to just get that 2% better. So I don't think that mentality is ever going to go away. And then it's listening to the ones that do a really great job. When you, with the guys like Rogan, guys like Tim Ferriss, guys that are very articulate and very smooth and very confident in their speech, and trying to figure out how I can just be a little bit better each time, and make sure that the people that are listening want to come back and listen that much more, and how it comes down to the guests too, like having really great guests. And I've been lucky enough that I haven't had any duds yet. Everybody's been great, so I've been very, very lucky in that respect. So, just trying to talk to interesting people and learn, and become a better listener. Like I said, going back to your question, I think it's having a genuine curiosity, and you really got to care. You really have to listen. It can't be bullshit, and I think those are the best.
I think we're both probably more nervous doing the podcast interviews than performing live,
For sure. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. That stuff comes like second nature now. I do gigs, and I've done so many now that that's where I feel at home as far as singing. But as far as me talking and trying not to make an ass out of myself in the process,
Yeah.
uh,
It's funny. You start the interview and you're on question one and you realize there's like an hour and a half to go. And that there's so much time and room for error there, So it's
yeah,
always when you get to the end and it went well, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe like we pulled that
yeah.
off again,
And you can feel it, right? I don't know if you feel that or not, but like, there's some podcasts when I'm done, I'm like, okay, that was great. That they were a great guest. They like good conversation, gave really good answers, cool stories, whatever. Like, or even yourself, it's like it just felt natural. It felt like a really good rhythm. So sometimes, yeah, you just feel it in the conversation. And for me, it's like, once it's always the beginning of the pod for me when I'm starting. So it's about like the intro combos and getting into that rapport and getting into that rhythm. But usually after about 10 minutes of talking, everyone forgets that they're recording, and just kind of rolls with it. And once I hit that pocket, I don't really think about it too much after that.
Some great advice I got for nervousness, whether it's going on stage or interviewing, is if you're nervous, it's because you're thinking too much about yourself. So if you can think about, if you're performing, if you can think about not like, oh, I have to sound perfect, I have to look great, I'm a star. If you can think, man, I can't wait to, all these hardworking people that spent their money to come out. I can't wait to deliver a good time for them to have a great night and sing along with me and have memorable moments. And it's, you take it off of you, because if it's about them and they're having fun, you don't have to be perfect for them to have fun, and you don't have to be perfect for it to be memorable for them. And same thing with the podcast. If you're nervous, you just start to think, okay, well, it's not about me. Like, this platform I created so I can have remarkable people share their story and for them to be heard, and for me to extract their wisdom and their knowledge and their skills and pass that on to whoever is listening to this. So it's like a transfer of those qualities. And then suddenly it's not about you, and you're like, okay, if I mess up, or if I don't sound great, or I don't look great, I didn't do this for those reasons. And I found that that's
Exactly.
helpful.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Cool. We both agree. Now, so your podcast, man, you've had some amazing guests. Even though you just started a few months ago, your lineup is pretty crazy. So you had Susie McNeil, you've had Rick the Temp, I think it's Campanelli,
Yeah,
Tommy Swick, an amazing singer-songwriter. I think he's either at least been nominated, if not won a bunch of Junos.
he won a Juno. Yeah.
Yeah, and hockey legend Doug Gilmour. I mean,
Yeah.
these are amazing guests. Who out of all your guests so far were you most nervous
Oh,
speaking of? I feel like Doug Gilmour would be.
Doug. It was Doug.
Yeah.
You know how it is, right? Like musicians, we can talk to each other, we relate, but something about, like, they say, like, musicians want to be athletes and athletes want to be musicians, that kind of thing. Doug Gilmour, man, he was my freaking hero. I'm a Leaf fan. So to be able to sit down, I mean, I was sitting at his house having Arnold Palmer's, and
Yeah.
and kicking back and talking with him, and to be able to ask him about the high stick from Wayne Gretzky, to be able to ask about him, going into the Hall of Fame, or winning the Stanley Cup with the Flames, and hearing it from the horse's mouth. And this was one of my first childhood heroes. And for him to be so gracious, so kind, so nice, it was awesome. That hands down, I was a little, I was trying not to fanboy. Everybody else was.
You're probably fanboyed a little, but I'm sure he appreciates it.
Guaranteed. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. But he couldn't have been nothing. It couldn't have been nicer than he was. And here's a cool story about that. So I go to his place, and he takes me downstairs right after the interview's done. He takes me downstairs to show me some of his, like, merchandise. And we go into his closet, and he takes out his Calgary Flames jersey that he wore when he won the Stanley Cup, and he lets me hold it. I'm like, what the hell? Goes in and gives me the Leaf, doesn't give it to me, but lets me hold the Leaf jersey that he wore for the very last game with the Leafs. I'm like, this is freaking crazy.
That's history.
It's history, right? But then he has this. I see this guitar this guitar box, or case, and it's in, like, Toronto Maple Leaf blue. He goes, yeah. He goes, this guy made me this cigar box guitar for a fundraiser, and I bought it at the auction. And he goes, and I've had it here for 3 years. He goes, Brian, he goes, I just want to give it to somebody that knows how to play. And I talked to you about my friend Andrew McTaggart. Andrew's incredible. He's been my guitar player for a while. Plays with Steven Tyler. Plays with Tim Hicks. He's an incredible musician, and he's the sweetest guy in the world that I knew. Also a Leaf fan. So I was like, I have the guy for you, because basically it's all about slide guitar and those cigar box. So it was like a Cohiba cigar box body. They had the Leaf emblem in the back. It was signed by Doug Gilmour. When you open it up, you have a Doug Gilmour signed rookie card in this cigar box. And he goes, I have the guy for you. He goes, oh, really? Here, take it. Gives me the cigar box guitar. And it was crazy. I left with Doug's guitar, and I ended up giving it to Andrew at our gig 2 weeks ago, and he just lost his mind. So Doug just had me promise to send him a video of us playing it, and we're gonna learn the Hockey Night in Canada song on it, and play a video and send it to Doug. But yeah, like I said, he couldn't have been cooler.
I think with Andrew, you have a get out of jail free card for life, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, today, so I was writing with him today, and he took out that the rookie card. He gave it to me. He goes, man. He goes, even if I play with it live, I don't want the rookie card to be in there. He gave me the rookie card, and he kept the cigar box guitar. So it was a good like lunchroom deal, you know.
That's awesome. They growing up in the music industry, they say, you know, you have to be careful meeting your idols because a lot of times it'll break your heart that you have
Yeah,
an image of who they are and they're not like that. I think of the actor Russell Crowe. He has like he's not known as being the nicest guy, and I remember he had a quote that hit home. He said, "I owe you my best performance. I don't owe you a good attitude." And I thought that was pretty crazy because it's like he always wanted to be a great actor and he is, and then there's all this celebrity and fame that comes with it that he didn't ask for. Like that's not the dream. So it's like even though you hope everyone is nice to everyone, it's like I can respect that quote, right? Where it's like, I asked for this, I didn't ask for that, and now I have to deal with this. So, that's an example of you have to be careful meeting your idols because it might just break your heart. So it's pretty awesome that you get to meet an idol in Doug Gilmour and he ends up being super sweet.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I've been pretty lucky that way. Been able to meet some cool people, and for the most part, everybody's been fantastic. But yeah, going back to Russell Crowe, it's kind of like that old saying where they say like um, fame, money, success just is kind of like a microscope of it just makes you more of who you are.
Yeah.
So if you become a millionaire and you're a jerk, then you have more to be a jerk with.
He'll be a bigger jerk. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll just be a bigger jerk. But if you're compassionate and loving, you have more to be compassionate with, right? I think that goes with fame, fortune, all those things. So it doesn't necessarily change you sometimes. It just sort of kind of magnifies who you already are.
So you've already had a bunch of amazing guests. Who would your top 3 dream guests be? If you had a magic wand, you could tap 3 people on the shoulder, boom, they end up at your studio. Who would it be? So I've written out a list of some pretty cool people. Like for me, Eminem. Like I'm a huge Eminem fan,
Yeah,
and
right.
and I feel like there's the genius brain in there that I could pick, and I feel like because of his character and his persona that it would be tricky to kind of wade through all of that to get to the goods, but I feel like that would be incredible. And for me, Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson and
Yeah,
and
those are
those
great.
guys.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you a four. I'll give you a
Ooh,
four.
okay. More than I
Um,
asked for. I like it.
yeah. Tony Robbins,
Nice.
because Tony had a huge impact on my life. When I read Unleash the Power Within, that really did change me. And I did get to meet him once very quickly for a quick photo. It was kind of maybe similar to the Brian Tracy event. But to actually sit down and talk to that guy and just take his energy, and hopefully more of that kind of rubs off on you. Um, so Tony would be one of them. Rogan, I'm with you. I mean,
Nice. Well,
he's
we'll
the god.
double team. We'll get him. We'll
Well,
get him
yeah,
in a room.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Rogan would just be great because the guy's just such an interesting, cool guy. Um, Paul McCartney,
Nice.
I would love to sit down with a Beatle.
Yeah.
You know,
Only a part of the greatest songwriting duo of all time, right?
of all time,
Yeah.
right? So sitting down with McCartney, like I don't know if you saw it, but you should. I think it's on Disney Plus. Uh, McCartney 3-2-1, and he talks with Rick Rubin.
Oh, I
Uh,
love Rick
they go
Rubin.
they go they go through all the Beatles tracks and listen to all his lead bass parts and stuff. You'll love it, man. You'll love it. So check that out. So him, and then a guy that I've been listening to his pod and I just find him so fascinating and wise is Mike Tyson. I would love to sit down with Mike Tyson and just chat with him because he's had such an unreal journey and career, but he's for him to come out the other side way more wise, and just with all this depth and wisdom, it's really profound. So I'd love to talk to him too.
Crazy the career resurrection that he's had since he was kind of in no man's land, and then he had the cameo in Hangover, And
And he was in rough shape there, man. Like he
yeah.
was, yeah.
So he goes, he loses a ton of weight. He starts doing good. Like he's all about charity. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy the turnaround. But you think about it, like imagine being bred essentially from birth to be like a murderer,
Yeah.
in the boxing ring. And the only person that ever believed in him was his trainer who died when he was young. And it's like he doesn't have that mentorship or the guidance anymore. And knowing you could literally like kill anybody with your bare hands. And then suddenly being worth $200 million, like how can you not be messed up? Like they talk, they talk about Justin Bieber, where it's like he went through that period where he was doing some dumb stuff. And it's like, well, imagine you're 14, and from 14 until now, where I don't know, he's 27 or something, he's worth $250 million. He has doesn't know what a normal childhood is, or
Yeah.
how many mistakes have we made? It just hasn't been in the spotlight.
That's what I mean. Think about it, man. If the camera was on us like him, how many times, we would be in the tabloids as well doing stupid shit. Like that. That's inevitable. So it's so easy to judge these days. Like it's I find it hilarious sometimes how people uh think they have these certain celebrities figured out just by a post or by something that they've done, and it's just not that cut and dry. It's not that simple. These people have very complex lives, and yes, they're very privileged and they have a lot of money, a lot of fame, but there's a lot that comes with that. And to act like we know what they're going through, we have no clue, no clue. So it's, don't don't judge, man. You just don't know what's going on in that person's life.
Yeah, you think you would do different in their scenario, but until you're in that
Yeah.
scenario, you have no idea.